What's going on, everyone? We are back for another episode of After the Snow. It's our exclusive Snowfall After Show podcast. You'll only find on Breakbeat, here with myself, Miss Brett Jeffries, and my co-host, Freeway Rick Ross. What's up, Rick?
What up, Dave? I'm ready, man. Let's get it.
Yeah, man. As you can see, we're in a little different location. We're not at the Breakbeat Chicago headquarters today, but we had to keep the shows going. So we're Breakbeat International today. So if you guys hear some noises in the background, we'll just have to deal with some of the elements of us being out of town this week.
On one of them beautiful islands.
Yes.
Very
Getting
beautiful.
all the sun we can get.
Exactly.
Yeah, it looks
before we get back to that Chicago winter.
It looks lovely over there.
It is. It is. So we're talking about episode 2. The name of the episode this week is Commitment. So Rick, I wanted to just, I know you watched the episode. What do you take from that commitment title?
Well, I think Franklin had his agenda that he wanted to implement. Especially since he found out that his old lady was pregnant now, and I think she had gotten to his head a little bit about being there for his baby.
Sure.
And I can definitely relate to that. Because I didn't want to have kids until I was financially able to support them. So I definitely can relate to that. Even though, I was always kind of mad at my dad for not being around when I was coming up, and I'd always made a commitment to myself that I planned on being there for my kids. But when you're in that line of work that Franklin's in, you're no longer in control of your future. You can only control so much of your future because so much depends on what other people's investigations detail. So I thought about that when I heard the commitment and about him having his first child. All that kind of rung a bell for me, about when I was getting down.
Yeah. What about you, Brett? Did you take anything else from the commitment title after watching this?
No, I think that's just about what I was kind of feeling too. Just doubling down on being committed to his inner circle, and Franklin being committed to his inner circle and being committed to Veronique as they prepare for their first child.
Right. So
And doing anything that it took to stay out of prison. It looks like that he had made up his mind certain things that it may take for him to stay out of prison, as far as killing Rob.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed when he was telling his uncle about that, his uncle wasn't really excited about him killing Rob. I don't know if you remember, but the expression that he gave at the table, he kind of like turned his head to the side and looked at his girl and was like, Rob, like we really fucked with Rob, man. And I mean, that was just the impression that I got from the dad, which I thought that was a real expression, because that's something that I would have said if one of my homies would have came and told me that they killed somebody that was really dear to the family.
Yeah. And it also kind of makes you feel like, well, then who's safe, because White Rob was like really part of the family. He was more than just a friend,
And he got, Franklin got that same reaction really from Leon too, because he tells Leon about the Rob situation when he goes to see him in this episode, and Leon also was kind of like, why did you have to do that? That type of thing. So, I think it's setting things up for, a lot of things, but for it to be clear that Franklin, will stop at nothing, to pursue this goal of his of reaching the top and making some type of grand exit. I guess he still has that in his mind, but he's definitely, the people around him, like you said, start to have to start to think about themselves a little bit when they see him making these kind of decisions.
Absolutely, because now you're only one mistake from being a casualty, and the way the way Franklin killed Rob, I'm still like baffled that his guy was looking into the sky, and he shot him in the back of the head. Without him knowing it, was like, wow. Is that how you get down? So if I was anybody on the team, I would be on pins and needles.
Hmm. And you could kind of see that
I
too
don't
when
know
he
if I,
when he killed him. You could see that in Peach's facial expression as he was digging the grave for the other guy, Thad, that they had killed. You could see Peaches was kind of thinking, "Well, damn, am I next?"
well, you would think so, because now Peaches is a potential witness to a
Right,
murder. Well,
right,
not one murder, but two murders.
but right, exactly.
And you talk about two murders, in most cities, especially in California, that's a capital murder. Those are
Hmm.
capital murders. So those
Hmm.
those carry the death penalty here in California. Well, not anymore. I don't know if we still got the death. Our death penalty. They play with it so much. One day they got it,
Hmm.
one day they don't. So I don't know if they still have it today. But as they killed Tookie. Tookie Williams was killed because he had murdered two people. Um,
Hmm.
Even though his was
Yep.
in a robbery, but these two murders would probably qualify because it was drug related as well.
Hmm.
Because there's certain elements that have to be inside of the case in order to make it a capital
Right.
murder. But literally, what he's doing is committing potentially capital murders. I'd have to get the law to find out, exactly what it is. But those are potential capital murders.
Hmm.
So a big focus of this second episode is uh, the return of our old friend, the CIA agent, um, Reed, who I guess is now going by Teddy after his identity was exposed last season by Franklin's dad. Um, and so I want to spend some time today, Rick, really talking about this guy because Teddy is not an identical match to what you dealt with in real life. What this is based on, it's been stretched a
Yeah.
bit, but
When I see Teddy, I'm looking at a guy more like 007. That they've implemented this guy who was smarter than anybody in the set. And I'm not saying by any imagination that Danilo wasn't smart. Most of the Nicaraguans that I ran into were smart. Most of them was college educated. Danilo ran agriculture for Nicaragua, so he wasn't a fool by no imagination. But the things that we see Teddy doing, Danilo didn't have those powers.
right.
At least
So
I didn't see those powers in him. Maybe he did. Maybe he did, outside of my knowledge, because I didn't even know that he was a CIA operative. When we were doing what we were doing, I never had a clue that he was a CIA operative. Only thing that I knew was that he had great dope at a great price, and I loved it. And that he was a smart man. He was able to run businesses. He had a few businesses that he ran. Uh, Danilo was very low key. Soft spoken guy. Uh, very unintimidating. You
Hmm.
know, a matter of fact, I would even say that I protected him, and he wasn't the smartest cookie in the jar. I used to have to get on those guys all the time about coming over to South Central LA looking for me. They would literally just be driving through the neighborhood like, "Hey, where's Rick? Where's Rick?" And I'd be like, "Hey, man, you can't come over here like that." You know what I'm
right,
saying? These guys know you, but you don't know what these guys are gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, one day you talking about guys that are gangbangers, guys that rob and pimp, for their living, so you just don't know what they would do to somebody who they know is having millions of dollars of cocaine at their disposal. So when they show this guy that is just super super sophisticated, able to get into a guy's house through locked doors and spike his alcohol and do a quiet kill, where you're dying in a couple seconds. Was pretty amazing to me. I look at that more as a movie that should have been, on a 007.
So
movie or something.
let's back up for a second, because what I'm also finding after starting doing this podcast is like there's tons of people that really have no idea about your story. As massively known as your story is, there's still a lot of people that don't know, and then there's a lot of people in particular that don't know that Snowfall is really based on your story. So let's just back up and let people know. I mean, one of the most significant things about your story is the fact that some years later, you were at your height of doing your thing in the 80s. And it wasn't
80,
until,
84 through 86 were
okay,
my best years. Those are the years that I was doing at least $1 million every day, and I would have days, not every day, but I would have days that $1 million, $3 million would go through my hands.
yep.
Uh, and I would have days that 2 million would go through, and I would have days that 2.5 million went through. But during that time, at least $1 million would go through my hand on a daily basis.
Okay, so in that time period in the 80s, the Iran Contra scandal did, emerge and break out, um, but only a part of it. One of the more important parts of it doesn't become exposed until almost 10 years later by the reporter Gary Webb from the San Jose Mercury News. But in the 80s,
96 to be exact.
yes, in the 80s, it was revealed that the U.S. was secretly trading arms with the Iranians in order to get those
Raise
arms to the
money for,
Nicaraguans. Yeah, the U.S.
yeah,
was there was a takeover in Nicaragua. The government was kind of becoming a
Sandinistas. The
Sandinitas becoming
Sandinistas took over. It's almost like what's happening right now in Kuwait. I mean, Croatia is that
Ukraine.
the one of Russia's the attack right now.
Ukraine.
Ukraine. It's almost
Yeah.
the same. Russia was backing the Sandinistas, and the U.S. was backing the Contras. So they had this war going on, and the U.S. didn't want the Sandinistas to win because they felt that if they did, Russia would be in their backyard. Kind of like what Russia's saying right now with Ukraine, that if Ukraine joins the UN, then that means that the U.S. and the rest of United Nations would be in their backyard. And that was the same thing happening over in Nicaragua, but it was
Right.
reversed, where the Contras was backed by the U.S. and Sandinistas was backed by Russia.
So in that case, the U.S. didn't invade Nicaragua like we're seeing now with Russia, but they backed the forces that were the rebels in that country,
Correct.
which were the
Correct.
Contras, and they did so in part because by doing something secretly with Iran and selling arms. But the more
But that came
interesting,
later, though. That came later. But
okay,
first, the U.S. was actually giving them money.
yes,
But what was found out is that the Contras was committing crimes that was against humanity. Was accused of raping women and killing kids and just doing horrendous crimes. And the U.S. Congress had a hearing, and they decided to cut off funding.
yeah. So after they cut off funding in the mid '80s, that's when they got into this illegal arms trading and hostages being exchanged and things like that. That gets exposed, and that's when Oliver North, goes in front of has to testify and all these sorts of things. But the
Correct.
most important, I think, aspect of it is what's revealed in '96 by Gary Webb. And Gary Webb focused on Danilo Blandon, among others, but that was a central part of his research was him discovering that your contact, the person that you were getting your drugs from, was actually working as an operative for the CIA. And, you know,
Absolutely.
that's the connection between the government being responsible for bringing cocaine into America's inner cities behind the scenes, and that's the connection to really the key part of this whole show. What makes the show so intriguing is the CIA's role in all of this. So yeah, with the the CIA's role being such an integral part of what makes Snowfall interesting to people. Um, why don't you give the listeners and the viewers a little more about
Well,
Danilo?
well, Danilo was the main supplier. I didn't start with Danilo. I started with a guy named Henry Corrales, I think was his last name. And eventually, I worked with Henry. Henry was an alcoholic. Henry drunk, and he didn't take care of his business the way he
How'd
should
you meet
have.
Henry? How'd you meet Henry?
I met Henry through a school teacher that was a teacher over at Venice Skill Center, and I was gonna go to Venice. You know, I was 19 years old, and I was kind of lost. You know, I just discovered that I wasn't gonna be going to college to play tennis, and uh, I always wanted to be something, Dave. I never just wanted to be a lump on the log. You know, so I was looking for uh, things that a person that was illiterate, because I was totally illiterate, couldn't read, couldn't write. I was trying to find something that I could do to make myself relevant in the world, you know. So I joined this school, Bennett Skill Center, and I was taking up car upholstery. You know, it kind of served two things for me because I was also building lowriders at the time, and I was going to build this lowrider. So while I was there, I started going to class and I'm working hard at the the way I do with everything. And me and the teacher, we get really tight and find out he plays tennis, and so we started to go play tennis together. And he becomes a mentor, a brother, a father figure to me. Uh, and then I disappear for months. And during this time, I'm selling cocaine. I've just been introduced to cocaine. So I go back over to the school because I missed him. Like I ain't saw my boy in months. So I go back and with not the intention to tell him what I was doing. The last thing in my mind was to let him know that I sold cocaine. Well, anyway, he starts to drill me like, "Where you been? What you been doing?" And I guess when somebody can recognize when you picked up a few dollars. I don't know how he picked up on the fact that I had a few more dollars than I had when I was going to school, but he picked up, I guess, on something. So he just kept drilling me on what you doing, what you got going on, where you been, and and I'm not one to lie to my friends. And then I just came out and said, "Man, I'm selling cocaine now," and he was like, "What?" And he was like, "Man, come to my house tonight." And I'd never been over to his house before. So I go to his house, and he asked me how much cocaine you buying. And at that time, I was only buying 3 grams. I'm spending like $350. So I tell him what I'm buying, and he pulls out some cocaine and he shows it to me. And he was like, "Well, next time you're ready, just call me. I'm gonna get you hooked up." And then he starts to go through the story of how he uh, uh, didn't buy that house from being a school teacher. He wasn't driving a Cadillac from being a school teacher, and he wore a lot of jewelry too. And he was like, "You think I got all this jewelry from teaching school?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I made like $250,000 selling cocaine, and I quit. I quit doing it, and now I'm a school teacher." So he's like, "I got some plugs for you." So the next day I called him up, and he called his plug over, and it was Henry. So we did a few deals, and what went wrong is that Mr. Fisher was smoking. He was using the drugs. So eventually, um, I jumped Mr. Fisher and went straight to Henry, and that's how I got to the Nicaraguan. That's how I got my Nicaraguan connection.
So was Henry Nicaraguan?
He was Nicaraguan, yeah.
Okay.
It was like a
So
whole little mob of them. It was like uh, there was two other ones that I eventually met. You know what I was able to do was jump the ladder. One of the things that I had learned from selling the drugs is that you can jump your connection. You can outgrow your connection. Say for instance, I might want 30 pounds of cocaine because that's what they were selling me at the time. They wasn't selling me kilos; they were selling me pounds, and I would want 30 pounds, but Henry ain't saved his money, so Henry can't get 30 pounds. He can't go and take his money and buy 30 pounds. He needs me to give him my money to go buy 30 pounds, but I'm not giving you my money to go buy 30 pounds. I want to see my 30 pounds when I give you my money. I want the dope right there on the spot. So what eventually happened is Henry started bringing Ivan to the thing because Ivan ain't going to release his cocaine to Henry. He's going to come with his cocaine, just like I want to come with my money. And eventually, I was able to jump Henry and get straight to Ivan. Um, and the same thing with Ivan. Uh, Me and Ivan had become really tight. Uh, Ivan got caught cheating on his wife. His wife shot him in the back, paralyzed him. Uh, he was out of commission for about 6 or 7 months, which was really a bad time for me because I didn't have my same dope connections, with the prices and so forth. Uh, but then later on, how I got to Danilo is that Henry got slick after Ivan got shot. Henry came to me because Henry had knew who Ivan was getting the dope from. So he came to me and asked me that would I pay him $100,000 to introduce me to Danilo. I was able to talk him down to 60,000, and he talked Danilo into giving him 60,000 as well for the introduction. And that's how I
It's
got to
crazy how
Danilo.
these hierarchies work too, because that kind of happened in Snowfall. I mean, Franklin's original connect, I guess, was Avi, and then at one point, Avi is coming to Franklin for help for money. And it gets to a point where Franklin almost has to kill Avi because Avi's not returning his money quickly enough.
Oh yeah, I gotta watch the rest
You
of
got
the
to catch up.
seasons.
Yeah, I know
I
you're not
gotta
all the way
catch
caught
up.
up, but it's interesting, like that. That's
Looked
the
like
the
Javi was doing
dynamic
pretty.
shift.
Looked like Javi was doing pretty damn good to me.
He was doing
In
really
the
well in the beginning when Franklin was just a little fish in a big pond. He was doing really well, and Franklin was begging him for little cuts here and there. But then the dynamic totally shifted over the next couple seasons.
well, in the game, the person that can control the money really can control the game because the money is really the king.
Hmm.
In the game, they say money is king. So if
Yeah,
you can control the money, you definitely can control the drugs.
What?
I wanted to ask about Peaches.
Yeah. Talk about
Well, no, I just wanted to ask ask about Peaches. Have you noticed the last couple episodes that he's been sniffling and coughing, and he's blaming it on a summer cold? But I'm wondering, like,
You,
do we think that he's maybe dipping in the supply a little bit, or using, or what are we thinking?
More than likely. I mean, it's hard for people to be around the cocaine and not try it. One of the things that I found out about cocaine, most people who use cocaine did not get involved with cocaine to be users. They got in it to be dealers, and curiosity gets the best of them.
Mm.
You just start to wonder like, why are all these people doing it? What's the big thing about it? What does it do to you? You just get curious and you wanna figure those things out. So that's the main reason there's so many people. So I wouldn't be surprised that eventually in the show that he starts to that it comes
Get a
out
little
there because
curious, yeah.
and when people start using it from the beginning, you can't really tell, because you
Right.
start off, they can start off really small, and your tolerance level, as your tolerance level builds up, you need more and more to satisfy that crave. And that's the same thing also with the dealers too. With dealers, we start off small. Remember I said I start off with an 8 track. Well, really, the first time I got some cocaine, it was only $50 worth. But you crave more and more and more and more and more. That crave just continuously builds as you go along. I was really um, surprised with Franklin's guy, his main guy. I can't think of his name right now with the braids. I'm bad with names
Leon.
too,
Leon.
so
Leon.
forgive me with the names. What
Yeah,
was his name?
Leon.
Leon, and you're beating me to the punch because I was about to ask you what was the most surprising part of the episode for you.
Well, you know what? Surprising. I wouldn't say surprised because I don't really know where the show is going. You know, these writers to me are all over the place, and I think they're kind of lost right now with things to add into the show. Uh, uh, but what I thought was really real was when Leon told the young lady who had lost her job, did she think that she could be around cocaine again? You know, because one of the toughest things is for a person who is trying to rehab to actually be holding cocaine in their hand, and I was really impressed with that scene that they wrote where he told her that I don't think you should be getting involved again. I don't think that you should be around it. I'm gonna do you a favor, and I'm not gonna let you around it. That was some real shit.
There's definitely like this very like wise, mature side, I think, to Leon. He does make these decisions on other people's behalf that are surprising in a good way. When when, and I know you haven't seen all the episodes, the earlier episodes, when Wanda, his ex girlfriend, when she was kind of really hooked on it, he made a point of trying to get her off of it, and really almost like kidnapping her and locking her up so that she could detox and get off of it. And then now, like you're saying, enforcing that she not work with drugs so that she doesn't get back on it, and committing her to the hospital. So I think he does make these really wise decisions that are kind of surprising.
Yeah, and
Yeah, well, and if he did something like that, I mean, that's some real shit. I've known people to actually lock their girlfriends in the house. You know, like, oh, you can't come out the house. You know, even
Yep.
me myself. You know, I used to limit my girlfriend to use. I used to limit where she could go and when she could be leaving and how long she's supposed to be out because
Wow.
when they own that dope, it's hard for them to to
Hmm.
to kick. I mean, that cocaine is a tough it's a tough animal, you know, to kick. So yeah, Leon is definitely playing a role of a real guy. I wasn't really impressed with the time when I seen him beat the guy's feet for buying a pair of Jordans.
all right, last
Oh,
week.
yeah, with the shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little over the top for me. I mean, you talking about making millions of dollars and you gonna pay enough attention to a guy that spends $200 or $300 on a pair of shoes? Come on, uh, not in real life.
All right.
Yeah, I was torn with that. And, I didn't understand if he was just trying to make a point of saying, don't steal from me, because if you're going to steal these, $200-$300 shoes, you'll steal anything from me. You'll steal my supply. You'll steal, cash out of my wallet. You'll steal anything. I didn't know if that was his point, because there's a time, there are also times when Leon is so giving, when he's had other people run up on him with guns or try to take things from him, and he'll say, you don't have to take it, just ask me and I'll give you the money. So that one
Yeah,
was a
but
little
that's
seemed a
kind
little
of a
off
conflict
character.
too, though. I mean, those are two conflicting statements, though, too. You
Yeah.
know, if somebody's trying to rob you and you don't really handle that, but you're talking about giving them something, and then one of your guys, take a few $100s from you and you whoop his feet with, and you got three or four guys with you when you do that. Uh, Kind of contradictory in my opinion.
It
If
is.
you're
It is.
if you're a given person, you would understand a guy taking $200 or
I
$300,
think
especially you talking about millions and millions of dollars being made. Who cares about a couple $100?
Exactly, because there was a girl last season when they were, searching for Leon, who ran up on him. Remember? And he was like, "You don't have to. You don't have to rob me. You don't have to try to kill me. Just ask, and I'll give it to you." And he
right.
put a wad of cash in her pocket.
I
Now
think
you got me want to go back and see that.
you gotta do it. So I think what we're seeing also is maybe some foreshadowing. They gotta keep you thinking that Leon will do something, extreme if he has to, or that he won't hesitate to do something. That's what I'm thinking. Like, where is it gonna go? Is he gonna, is there gonna be a situation where Leon has to do something, really extreme to
Make a
somebody,
decision.
whether it's, Franklin or anybody else down
Yeah.
the road? Maybe
Yeah.
they're kind of planting a seed for that.
Yeah, I could see him and Franklin bumping heads as well.
Yeah, because they have in the
Down the line.
past.
you know, uh, Maybe going their separate ways. Where I mean, you look at all the black movies, and most of the black movies that you see, the two guys usually break up, and one wants to quit, and one don't want to quit. You remember in the scene in Superfly, and Superfly, Priest comes to his partner. He's like, "Man, I'm ready to get out of this here," and then his partner's like, "Man, you can't get out. The man gonna kill you."
Mhm.
And he said, "I gotta wait for us both out." He said, "Nigga, I don't want no way out. I want to live like this for the rest of my life." And he runs back and he tells the man that Priest is planning on getting out the game. So I wouldn't be surprised that they add something like that into this story. Because I believe right now they've ran out of material. Material is getting hard to find. So they're throwing different Hollywood scenes into what we're seeing now.
I wonder who might be able to help them with that.
I was gonna say just a little soft plug, just a little soft
We shall
plug
see. We
for
shall see.
who could give them the real deal.
You know.
But the other thing I think is interesting is we still don't have a definitive answer from Teddy on what's happened to Franklin's parents, right? I mean, we still don't really know, right? Didn't Teddy say? I mean, for all we know, your dad could be locked up in a Cuban prison somewhere, or we still don't really know for
No.
sure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he's dead, or we don't even know for sure what's happened to his mom yet.
And Teddy is a weird guy too. Even just the
He's
way he
so
looks all
weird,
the
such a
time.
strange
He
guy.
has this really really stone
Yeah,
face. Like
yeah,
there's no telling. His
yeah,
face
yeah,
doesn't tell you who he is. I can't figure him out. It's like, what is with this guy? Who
yeah,
is he? Does he really like his old lady and his kid, or does he want to be all powerful? And I was really shocked when Franklin told him it was his world. Like, Listen, Franklin was just bullshitting with him. Trying to throw him off until he gets in a position to take care of him. Because I don't think
yeah.
Teddy is going to let Franklin quit selling drugs.
Right, right. Teddy has no swag. I tell you that. There is nothing swaggy about that man. Usually, I just feel like there's usually something kind of sexy. There's they have a nice little walk. There's nothing. There's nothing about him.
Yeah, he's really stone. He's
Yes.
kind of a stone facer. Uh, uh, no nonsenser. You know,
Yeah.
no parties, no excitement. Even the
Nothing.
guy tells him in there. Like, you don't have no excitement. Or the guy
Yeah.
that he killed. He told him. He really laid out his whole persona. He knew exactly where Teddy was coming from. He said, "Oh no, they probably didn't call you back. You just you
You
just
know,
came back because you
fun.
don't have a life." You know,
Right.
uh, uh, and then he
Well,
tells the guy that he's just committed to his job. He's not killing him
Hmm.
because he insulted him. I thought that was
who
thought
who
that was
who was
different.
Danilo more similar to,
Mm.
Teddy or Grady?
He wasn't similar to neither one of those guys. Uh, um, these guys weren't flashy. They didn't dress with jewelry and I mean they owned a car lot, so they drove okay cars, Mercedes Benz, but uh, and they drunk too. They drunk and they snorted cocaine.
Hmm.
Yeah, they snorted cocaine, uh, but they weren't boastful. They weren't loud. Uh, and they weren't intimidating. These were like little fat chubby guys, like
Interesting.
guys that I felt that I could dominate on any playing field that we went on. I was not afraid to challenge them on any field that we went on. It could be whatever. I was not intimidated by them, but I also knew that they were smart. You know,
Hmm.
um, they had rental car agencies, car lots. They were doing the business thing, but not the way the other guy was doing it. They more dressed more like Teddy. You know, the way Teddy dressed with the casualness.
Yeah, the
Jeans and
plane, the
a
khakis.
sports jacket. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They dress like that, but just not with his level of sophistication. I think that he was much more of a sophisticated guy. Uh, Danilo never even carried. I never saw Danilo with a gun.
Wow. Now, what about similarities with you and Franklin? I know you said you you tried the cocaine a couple times, but you got really sick off of it, so you didn't like it. But what about drinking?
No, I didn't drink. I'm totally
You
not
didn't
a
drink, so you're
drinker.
very similar to, or Franklin, I guess, is very similar to you in that regard.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
drinking, no drugs.
And, his soft spokenness. I can relate to that. Uh, but he doesn't show me, and I got an ego, but my ego is kind of like hidden. I try to hide my ego from people. Most of the people who know me would be my friends know about my ego. Like
Hmm.
if we play basketball, like I'm gonna bust your ass. If we playing football, I'm busting your ass. If we on the ping pong table, I'm trying to. So, so the people who would know that would be my friends, and I haven't saw that really witnessed with Franklin yet. How his competitiveness because I'm competitive in everything that I do. But I try not to let the people that I'm competing against know how competitive I am because that's part of my edge. And I haven't
Yeah,
really saw
yeah.
that with Franklin. So far, he's been kind of like uh, cowing down, in his, like I never would have told Danilo that this was his world, like never am I going to tell you that. If I am, I'm straight bullshitting you. You know,
Well, we shall see if that's what Franklin,
Yeah, right.
had
Sure.
in
I
mind
guess.
when he says that at the end of this episode. Um, there was a scene earlier in the episode with Auntie Louie and Uncle Jerome meeting with Avi, and they're getting AKs and Mac 10s and mini Uzis, and you're seeing all this sophisticated weaponry. Um, just wanted to see if you could share some insight on both how you saw the transformation kind of in the community and in the streets in the 80s, with the influx of more, powerful weapons. Basically, how did that impact what was going on, in the drug business and in the community as a whole? And then also, what was the availability, and how did you get your connects to get those kind of weapons?
well, Danilo was one of my connections on the guns as well. Uh, and when you start having more money, you can buy more sophisticated weaponry. We had access at pretty much any guns that we wanted. Uzis with silencers, Mac 10s with silencers, Thompson. I remember I had this Thompson and I had it nickel plated. Uh, uh, and I used to have it sitting over my fireplace at my house, and somebody walked in and was like, "Is that gun fully automatic?" And I was like, "Yeah." They was like, "That's a federal offense." And I was like, "What?" That's how I grabbed it off the wall and got rid of it. So we pretty much had access to pretty much any kind of weaponry that we wanted. Even one time, Adi was talking about getting a grenade launcher. Because we had these crooked cops that was planting drugs on us and beating us up and all that, and they had an idea of shooting one of those grenades over at the police station.
Yeah. What about the evolution of the violence? In the 70s, I don't think there was as much gunplay involved. How did things change in the 80s? And what was the impact of that?
Well, another thing that I haven't saw in there is where the gang members got into the game. When I did it, most of my friends were gang members. I grew up in gang neighborhood, just the way it was. And you want for your homie what you want for yourself. So I started to teach gang members how to have money. And when I taught one gang member, then he would teach another one, he would teach another one. So you could just imagine now guys who, the gang might only have one gun or two guns. Now they got enough money to buy guns for the whole gang. That there's definitely going to be more shootings and more casualties that go along with that. So I believe that as the drug business grew, you know, uh, the money grew, so did the weaponry, so did the homicides, and all the deals wasn't necessarily over the drugs. Most of the killing, in my personal opinion, in the neighborhood is over women, um, somebody having a fight and losing a fight, and he can't take it. He come back and kill this person, and then his set come back and kill that person, and it just starts this evolution of this war that we've had with the Crips and the Bloods for the past I don't know how many 30, 40 years. But absolutely, the money brought more guns, and more guns definitely led to more murders, more mayhem.
One of the last things I wanted to just bring up as a thought, Teddy Reed, we see him in this episode, pushing his way back into the fold, getting his old job back, etc. And he uses the rationale a lot of times of this is important for the country, for democracy. We've got to keep this war in Nicaragua going. We've got to keep funding it no matter what, because I guess again, this is for our democracy. So they try to paint paint Teddy as a patriot, as somebody who's going to all these lengths, for the
Well,
better
if he's
interest of the
cooperating,
country.
if he's cooperating with the government, if he's helping the government with a mission, then in actuality he is a patriot. He is somebody that is helping the American agenda. What the president of the United States wanted to happen. So in a sense, you are a patriot to that cause, even if what you're doing is wrong or illegal.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, that's just my personal opinion. Now, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said that it don't matter if the government did supply the drugs, and if you start selling drugs, you a felon, you a drug dealer. So,
Right. Right.
it's just quite
Well,
whose side of the fence you on.
yeah. I think that's something we can keep talking about as the season goes on. So after the snow, brought to you by Breakbeat Media. Um, I'm Dave Mays, co-founder and CEO of Breakbeat. I've got Brett Jeffries.
Co-creator of After the Snow and co-executive producer, as well as your chief creative officer of Breakbeat Media.
Yes, and of course the illustrious Freeway Rick. Thanks for being here again this week. We'll be back to talk about episode 3 shortly, and we'll see you guys then.
Peace.
Peace.